This is Nightline and I'm Raymond. News making the headlines. Mask wearing no longer mandatory on airplanes. And Budget 2023 may need to be retabled if Parliament is dissolved prior to bill approval. Good morning. The use of face masks will no longer be mandatory on airplanes. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin, in a statement on Wednesday, said that the ruling would take effect immediately. According to Khairi, those with COVID-19 symptoms such as fever, coughing and flu are still recommended to wear face masks. He added that high-risk individuals, including the elderly, those with chronic illness and pregnant and their travel companions, are also encouraged to wear a mask when on board aircraft. The statement was issued following a meeting between the minister and Malaysia Airlines Group Chief Executive Officer, Captain Isham Ismail. Khairi said the decision was made taking into consideration the improvements in plane technology and Malaysia's COVID-19 caseload, which was presently under control. The relaxation, he added, is also in line with the health recommendations by the European Union, the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia, New Zealand and Singapore. However, he stressed that the requirement to put on a mask in flight is still subject to the rules set by the respective destination countries. In other news, Khairi said the Health Ministry will prepare a new cabinet memorandum relating to the application to abolish Section 309 of the Penal Code, Act 574, to decriminalize suicide attempts as proposed by the Attorney General's Chambers, AGC. He said the ministry has received a report of the study conducted by the AGC regarding decriminalization of suicide attempts, adding that the results of the study will be discussed in an engagement session with stakeholders.
Pada waktu saya bawa MJM ni nampak macam KDN tak berapa setuju. Jadi kita tengoklah sama ada mereka boleh dipengaruhi untuk menyokong usaha untuk kita dekriminalisasikan cubaan bunuh diri ini.
He said this to the media after presenting funds for mental health programs to 52 non-governmental organizations on Wednesday. Khairi said whether the amendments to the Act would be tabled at the next Parliament session would depend on the decision of the Cabinet when he tabled the matter for discussion. Under Section 309, those found attempting suicide can be jailed up to a year or fined or both. Meanwhile, Khairi said Malaysia recorded an increase of 81% or 1,142 suicide cases last year compared to 631 cases in 2020. He said the police data showed worrying statistics that needed immediate action as the COVID-19 pandemic had exacerbated the issue of mental health. The upcoming Budget 2023, to be tabled in the Dewan Rakyat next Friday, may need to be retabled if Parliament is dissolved before the bill is passed in the House. Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Azhar Azizan Harun said once Parliament was dissolved and a new government was formed, the new federal administration would have to restart the entire process of tabling the budget.
Kalau ada pilihan raya, maka akan ada satu kerajaan yang baru. Ya. Jadi kerajaan yang baru perlu membuat bacaan pertama semula. Okey, maknanya dia kena bermula. Sebab ini belanjawan. Dia tak bind, dia tak mengikat kerajaan yang berikut.
Tan Sri Azhar said this to reporters at the Parliament building on Wednesday. When asked about the dissolution of Parliament, he said he was not privy to the matter. The first reading of Budget 2023 was scheduled next Wednesday before it will be tabled for second reading by Finance Minister Datuk Sri Tengku Zafrul Abdulaziz on October 7th. The bill will then be debated at the policy level as well as the committee level. The third meeting of the fifth term of the 14th parliamentary session will begin from October 3rd to November 29th. Meanwhile, Tan Sri Azhar said having a fixed parliamentary term system is a practical move and beneficial for the country. According to the Dewan Rakyat Speaker, having an exact date for the dissolution of Parliament would greatly help the Election Commission EC in carrying out its duties, especially in terms of saving costs, as well as preparing and holding elections.
Saya pernah di SPR. Okey. Ini secara praktikal ya, bukan secara politik ya. Secara praktikalnya SPR, saya waktu tu saya lebih suka kalau fixed term. Sebab apa? Sebab bila fixed term, SPR boleh bersedia. Kita boleh tengok apa tu polling station, kita boleh mula earmark sekolah mana, kita boleh mula sewa hall.
Tan Sri Azhar, who was also EC chairman, added that the Commission could also start training election workers and buy the necessary supplies. He was commenting on a new Straits Times report on the proposal for a fixed parliamentary system to be introduced in the country. The proposed anti-stalking bill will be tabled for second reading when the Dewan Rakyat reconvenes next month. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Mas Ermiyati Samsudin, said the bill involves amendments to the Penal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code CPC. In a statement on Wednesday, Datuk Mas Ermiyati said the bill is to protect victims, especially women, from harassment in an offline or online environment. She added the proposed amendment is to insert a new section, 507A, in Act 574, so as to provide for the offence of stalking. Under the section, whoever repeatedly by any act of harassment intend to cause or knowingly or ought to know that their act may likely cause distress, fear or alarm to any person of the person's safety commits an offence of stalking. The anti-stalking bill was first tabled on August 4th. Once the act is passed, offenders may face imprisonment of up to 3 years, fine or both if convicted under the Penal Code. Accordingly, the Criminal Procedure Code Amendment No. 2 Act 2022 bill was also tabled during the first reading in August. The proposed amendments to the CPC, among others, is aimed to insert a new chapter into Act 593 to empower the court, upon application, to issue a protection order against a person who is being investigated for or is charged with an offence of stalking.
Good day, Dato'.
Hello, Kevin.
I understand you're going all out to attract investments into Selangor.
Yes, with several focus areas.
Can you tell us more about it?
Sure, but not now. Join me on Martin Matters this Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3.
Employers are required to wait for the arrival of their new foreign workers at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, KLIA, to ensure that they have a legitimate employer. Immigration Director General Datuk Sri Khairul Zaimi Daud said the employers are responsible for managing the documentation of the workers and verifying that they are the employers of the workers concerned. In a statement on Wednesday, Datuk Sri Khairul Zaimi said the department will give employers a time window of 6 hours to receive the foreign workers at KLIA, but in certain circumstances, that period will be extended. He added that the foreign workers in question will not be released until the actual employer, as in the application, arrives at the airport to receive them. This requirement was to ensure that all foreign workers have legitimate employers. Employers' failure to comply with this rule will result in the foreign workers being given a not-to-land NTL notice, and they will be sent home on the next flight to their country of origin. Since the reopening of the national borders, the department has managed the entry of 98,079 new foreign workers from April 1st to September 26. For babies born in 2022, their average life expectancy is predicted to be shorter at an average of 73.4 years, slightly down from 74.5 years for babies born in 2021. This was based on the figures released by the Department of Statistics Malaysia on Wednesday. According to the department, the statistics of life expectancy in this country have been recording a drop since 2020, partly contributed by the excess deaths during the COVID-19 pandemic. Based on the figures, Malaysian women are expected to live longer than the men, with a difference of 4.5 years in 2022. Male babies born in 2022 are expected to live for an average of 71.3 years, compared to those born in 2020, who are expected to live for an average of 72.5 years, while female babies born this year are expected to live for 75.8 years, compared to those born 2 years earlier, who are expected to live for an average of 77.2 years. The males and females who reach the age of 15 this year are also respectively expected to live for another 56.9 years and 61.3 years, while the males and females who reach the age of 60 in 2022 are expected to live until they are 77.5 and 80.1 years respectively. 6 states are recorded as having life expectancies that exceed the national level of 73.4 years in 2022, namely Selangor, the Federal Territories of Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya and Labuan, Sarawak and Sabah. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry has detected the sale of Touch and Go TNG Near Field Communication NFC cards on online market platforms at exorbitant prices. Its Minister Datuk Sri Alexander Nanta Linggi said his ministry's Enforcement Division had received 4 official complaints on the matter and detected 13 card sales advertisements involving several online platforms. In a statement on Wednesday, Datuk Sri Nanta said preliminary investigations revealed that the sale of the cards on the online platforms also involved employees at the payment counter of a petrol station. He pointed out the cards that cost 10 ringgit each without any credit on it were found to be sold 5 times higher than the original rate. He also said based on checks and information from the managers of the online market platforms, a total of 11 premises, including private residences and business buildings, were inspected in relation to the case. Datuk Sri Nanta noted that 6 notices under the Price Control and Anti-Profiteering Act had been issued to the parties involved, where they were required to submit an official response or explanation to the Ministry's Enforcement Division. The Ministry is expected to hold a meeting with the TNG company this week to obtain the status of the methods during the sale and lack of supply of the cards. TNG NFC cards are sold at selected petrol stations or through online transactions using its application. The card allows users to top up anytime and anywhere via the Touch and Go e-wallet application without any surcharges. However, the 2 channels for the sale of the cards reportedly experienced limited supply since April this year. Malaysia is expected to have more than 2,000 electric vehicles EV by year-end. Science, Technology and Innovation Deputy Minister Dato' Ahmad Amzad Hashim said the country's EV penetration has increased to more than 1,000 units as of July, compared to 388 last year.
Ya, mengikut sasaran awal blueprint kita mensasarkan tahun ini kita ada 5,000 charging station di seluruh negara. Sekarang ni masih belum cukup, kurang daripada 1,000. Dan penumpuan masih lagi di kawasan-kawasan bandar utama, seperti mana tadi disebut DHL akan menumpukan van elektrik mereka di ibu kota dan juga di Johor dan juga di Penang.
As such, the government, along with the stakeholders' involvement, is strengthening efforts to set up more EV charging stations, especially in other states besides Klang Valley, to meet the current demand. He was speaking to the media after officiating 6 DHL Express electric delivery vans. The new vans will be deployed next month, serving areas in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor, and will add another 55 vehicles next year, covering the whole nation. After the break, 17 dead in Changchun restaurant fire. Stay tuned. We're back with news from the foreign front. A restaurant fire killed 17 people on Wednesday in the city of Changchun in northeastern China. According to authorities, the fire was reported at about 12:40 p.m. local time in a high-tech section of the Changchun New Area Industrial Zone. Firefighters then rushed to the scene and completed search and rescue work by 3 p.m. At least 3 other people were injured in the incident and taken to a hospital for treatment. The police has taken the owner of the restaurant in custody, and the country's emergency management ministry has ordered an investigation into the cause of the fire and dispatched a working team to the site. Hurricane Ian, now a stronger and extremely dangerous Category 4 storm, has begun lashing Florida with major flooding and ruinous winds as it advances on a large swath of the state's west coast, with the potential within hours to inflict catastrophic floods and life-threatening storm surge. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, conditions are rapidly deteriorating along the southwest Florida coast, with Ian's center just 88 kilometers from the coast. Its maximum sustained winds were 250 kilometers per hour, just 3 kilometers per hour short of a Category 5, as at 7 a.m. local time. So far, more than 2.5 million people have been advised to flee, including 1.75 million under mandatory evacuation orders. After pummeling Cuba as a Category 3 storm on Tuesday and leaving an island-wide blackout and killing at least 2 people, Ian is taking aim at Florida's vulnerable Gulf Coast, where residents have been boarding up and leaving in droves on congested highways. In another development, Sri Lanka has ordered civil servants on Wednesday not to express opinions on social media after some officials claimed school children were fainting from a lack of food due to the country's dire economic crisis. In a fresh order to 1.5 million state employees, the Ministry of Public Administration and Management said a long-established ban on speaking to reporters now extends to social media posts. It followed claims from provincial health officials and teachers that dozens of students were fainting in schools due to the lack of food. Since late 2021, Sri Lanka's 22 million people have been suffering the country's worst ever economic crisis after the government ran out of dollars to import many essentials. This triggered huge shortages and unofficial inflation rates, second only to Zimbabwe, as well as protests that led to the ouster of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in July. An Israeli raid killed 4 Palestinians on Wednesday, making it one of the deadliest days in the West Bank this year. 44 others were wounded during the raid and heavy clashes in Jenin Wednesday morning. The Islamic Jihad and Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade's factions said 4 of their members were killed. The Israel Defense Forces said the raid was related to an attack in Tel Aviv in April, which left 3 people dead, and that the suspects Wednesday fought back with explosives and gunfire. Since March, Israel has launched hundreds of operations in the northern West Bank in pursuit of alleged Palestinian fighters. sports, Saudi Arabia edged Japan 2-1 in their AFC Futsal Asian Cup Group D opener on Wednesday in Kuwait City. The Saudis came back from a goal down to take the lead in the first half and then held on as Japan pressured into the second half to secure the 3 points. Japan will next take on Korea Republic on Friday, while Saudi Arabia faced Vietnam in the day's later match. On to tennis now. Romania's Radu Albot defeated USA's Steve Johnson in straight sets to reach the second round of the Korea Open on Wednesday. Albot won 7-6, 7-3 in 1 hour and 56 minutes. In the previous round, Albot defeated Japanese lucky loser Hiroki Moriya 6-3, 6-4. Albot, ranked number 91, will face Canadian Denis Shapovalov next. Earlier in another match, Shapovalov beat Jean Moulin to advance to the quarterfinals. The fourth seed was pushed hard by his Spanish opponent before winning 7-5, 6-4 in 1 hour and 49 minutes. Up next, trio charged with killing own friend. Stay tuned to Nightline. Welcome back. Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak's review application to reverse his conviction and sentence for the misappropriation of 42 million ringgit in SRC International Sendirian Berhad funds has been fixed for case management at the Federal Court on October 21st. Lawyer Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah, who is back representing Dato Sri Najib, said this during the case management of the former Prime Minister's second SRC case at the Kuala Lumpur High Court on Wednesday. Following Dato Sri Najib's review application, the High Court fixed November 29 for mention of his second SRC case relating to 3 money laundering charges involving 27 million ringgit of SRC funds. This after Judge Muhammad Zaini Mazlan, who is presiding the case, allowed the prosecution's application to have another mention date pending the disposal of the review. Previously, the trial has been postponed pending the disposal of the 42 million ringgit SRC appeal at the Apex Court. On July 26, Dato Sri Najib discharged with immediate effect Messrs. Shafi & Co. from representing him in his final appeal against his conviction and sentence for the 42 million ringgit SRC case, and appointed Zaid Ibrahim Suflan, T.H. Liu and Partners, ZIST, as his new legal representative. On August 23rd, the Federal Court upheld the High Court's decision to convict Dato Sri Najib to 12 years jail and fine of 210 million ringgit in the case. Dato Sri Najib is currently serving his sentence at the Kajang prison. In Terengganu, 3 men were charged at the Marang Magistrates Court for murdering a friend 8 years ago. 36-year-old Muhammad Azizi Mat, as well as Muhammad Jamil Ahmad and Muhammad Salman Muhammad Shaw, both 37, only nodded after the charge was read out to them before Magistrate Engku Nurul Ain Engku Muda. No plea was recorded as murder cases come under the jurisdiction of the High Court. The trio, with another suspect who was still at large, were jointly charged with murdering 32-year-old Muhammad Fadharus Rahmat in front of a house in Marang on November 11, 2014. The court then set November 2nd for mention. Currently, Muhammad Jamil and Muhammad Azizi are serving prison sentences for drug offences, while Muhammad Salman is undergoing treatment at a drug rehabilitation centre. Crashes, crazy soapbox carts and outrageous outfits attracted huge crowds to the Almaty in Kazakhstan for the latest Red Bull Soapbox race. As long as the vehicles are homemade and don't have any engines, pretty much anything goes in soapbox racing, and participants go to great lengths to outdo each other with the most original ideas. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look at the race as vehicles fell apart or wobbled off course into hay bales. With that, I'm Raymond. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant week ahead.